OP08 2 Legends has officially released when this video has come out, and lots of people are excited. Not only are there new decks, new archetypes, but there's also plenty of existing archetypes that get boosts to this and going into a fresh meta, right, with the ban of Red Purple Law and also Ennis Lobby stage. This is kind of going to be a brand new meta that is not figured out, that is free to explore, right? We don't have any experience with like Eastern results alongside this meta, so a lot of people are very excited about it, including myself. If you're like me and you want to ball on a budget, or maybe you just only want to get some of the more competitive cards in the One Piece trading card game, I have a buy list video, as I usually do, for every set that releases in English, highlighting what cards you should get, what amounts of them, and which cards are like tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 being the highest tier, some of the best cards in the set. Tier 2 being cards that you'll see probably more often than not, but they're not game breaking to many archetypes. And then tier 3 is some of the more rogue stuff. Either it's a couple tech cards, something that I think has the potential in the future to do something really good, stuff of the sort. And usually I go by color order, but I'm going to talk about one card first in here. This is kind of the topic of the entire set. It is Black Maria here. Black Maria, in my opinion, is arguably the best card in the set. And if you really like this sleeve, right, I matched a purple character along with some page 1 and Alti sleeves. Absolutely love it. In a video in the near future, I'm going to tell you where to get these real cheap. It's something I can't really talk about right now, but anyways, let's continue on the buy list. There's a sneak peek for you all. Now, Black Maria, an insane card, 2k counter, 3 cost, 2000 power from Animal Kingdom Pirates. Activate main once per turn. If you have no other Black Maria, add up to 5 Dawn from your deck rested. Then at the end of the turn, put Dawn back in your Dawn deck until you equal your opponent. This card is insanely crazy. Like, I'm not kidding. If you've seen the last 3 months or whatever it is on the channel, you know that Black Maria is a crazy card to exist in the game. And even though Red Purple Law is banned, this card is still so prevalent in the meta, specifically because it's an inclusion in just about every purple deck. You play a purple deck, you play Black Maria, right? It doesn't matter if you're Reiju or Kaido or King or what are some other purple decks? Charlotte Pudding, right? Charlotte Pudding might actually be the only one to not have to play it, but how can you justify not playing it? Sure, it's not searchable, but if you get this down and you do a lot of Dawn minusing, especially at the beginning of the game, this Black Maria can catch you up a ton. It can even catch you up if you have this on the field, right? In the next turn, you do a 9-drop Kaido. You have to do that -5 in order to get the rush on the Kaido. You can then afterwards use the Black Maria's effect to literally go back to where you were, assuming that your opponent is also at 9 Dawn. This is one of the best cards in the set, arguably the best card. We'll talk about another card that is great later, but did want to lead off with that one because it is the hot topic of the set. The first card that we're going to talk about is Carrot in here on the tier 1 list. 5 cost, 6000 power with 1k counter on it. On play, when attacking, up to one of your opponent's rested cost 7 or less characters do not become active during the owner's next refresh phase. This is a card that is an immediate inclusion in green decks like Bonnie, and especially with the Red Purple Law ban, we could see Bonnie go up in playability as well as usage in general, and this Kara card is an excellent inclusion in the deck. We know that the 10-drop Doflamingo, right, from OP04 is a great 10 cost card and boss character, freezing so many different characters, but this card allows you to play that so much earlier, and especially with on play and when attacking, you've got the chance to be able to get this out early enough to be able to do some damage on your opponent's characters and really slow down the game in your favor, especially on a 6 Dawn turn when you can rest another one. Now, the next card that I'm talking about is an event card, Electrical Luna, and if you played in the pre-releases and you pulled this card, you probably won your game. Now, for 3 Dawn on your main phase, all of your opponent's rested characters with the cost of 7 or less do not become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. With 3 Dawn, you can play this so early in the game, and especially on that trigger, resting a character is good with it as well. 7 cost or less characters are running amok right now in the One Piece trading card game, right? Characters with the cost of like 4 to 7 are so strong. It's a great card. You may not see a lot of it at first, but has such a strong potential in this game, in my opinion. I consider this one tier 1 for sure. Now, Jojo is another one of those tier 1 cards. Whitebeard Pirates, 6 cost, 7,000 power with a 1k counter on it. On play, you may return one of your characters other than this card to your hand and return up to 1 6 cost or lower character to the original owner's hand. I talked about how like 4 to 7 kind of run amok in the One Piece trading card game right now, and Jojo is another response to that, especially in combinations with something like Boa Hancock, right? You play that card down, you pick up one of your 1 cost characters, one of your opponent's 1 cost characters, return one of your opponent's 6 cost characters, and then you can potentially use Boa's effect to draw a card because you returned a character on the field. We haven't even mentioned how this character itself has a combination in something like Marco, the new leader from OP08 that is red and blue. It's a great mid-game card. It's a great opportunity to put away blockers or put away pesky targets that you really don't want to deal with. Maybe some dead non-counter cards back into your opponent's hand to clutter up the hand. It's got a lot of good viability, I feel like, in blue decks, especially when you talk about Boa and maybe Marco. And this one I would definitely want 4, because if Boa is playing this Whitebeard Pirates card, I bet other blue decks will in the future as well. Now we have Arble here. So Arble is an activate main. You may place this character in your trash, and if your leader has Animal Kingdom Pirates type and you have 10 Dawn, you can play up to 1 7 cost or less king from your hand. So this works with only a select amount of leaders, that being the new OP08 king, or the Kaidos, any sort of the Kaidos actually, or even the OP01 king. And with this, you have a searchable character that can cheat out 7s, right? For 4 Dawn, all you have to do is do 7s. And if this actually stays on the field through an entire turn, you just literally cheat out a 7 for free, effectively getting at least a 17 Dawn turn. There are some pretty good king cards in this format. Another one we're going to talk about later gets added into the mix with OP08, but especially as the game continues on, more gets printed. This card only gets more value with the more king cards that are there, and I honestly think that you should play this if you're playing like OP08 King or something like that, because it is just so nice of a card, especially when you want to lay down like 2 bodies in a single turn that apply a ton of pressure when you're in that kind of stage of the game. This could be so good. Now there's 2 Charlotte Kaik Curry cards in here, so I'm making sure that I have the right one. This first one I'm going to talk about in OP08. On play, you may flip the top card of your life face down, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck, and set it as active. Having a really good synergy with the new Charlotte Pudding character is a really great inclusion for the deck, right? The Pudding character allows you to put life face up, right, to be able to ramp, and then this guy, this Kaik Curry, puts them face down for you to be able to put them back up face up, effectively continuing the ramp. Now, especially if you play this guy on curve, you could be able to really skip a lot of steps to be able to get to that 10 mark and play stuff like the 10 drop Big Mom. You've probably seen different creators talk about how crazy Pudding is, and I think there's a little bit of viability with that. And this Charlotte Kaik Curry is the first step, man. Now we have this Charlotte Pudding here, and this Charlotte Pudding's viability did go down overall in the meta. Once Red Purple Law got banned, this was a good staple alongside Black Maria in the deck. but I still think this pudding has a lot of value. We've seen a lot of value in the stuff like Eustace Captain Kidd, right? That 5-cost blocker from OP05. This is effectively the same thing, except you play it out a lot earlier. It's got less power, and it puts the Dawn as rested. Now, rested is not as valuable as active like the Kidd does, but this is a card that you can play earlier to be able to use your Dawn minusing effects, but not really lose out on Dawn. I really like this card. I definitely would pick up a 4 of these if you have not already when this is released, and definitely just go get it. Another absolutely cracked Big Mom Pirates card. We've got the 9-drop here. 9-drop, 9,000 power. It has an on-play Dawn -1. You trash 1 card from your hand. Add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. Then place up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less to the top or bottom of the owner's life face up. Now, we see a lot of times with Kaik Curry, right? You saw maybe in the video the other day how Nell really abuses that Kaik Curry to get a lot of the boss monsters off the field. You could see a lot of viability with this 9-drop, right? Especially on the odd curve now. A lot of times these Big Mom Pirate decks on the odd were able to play the 7-drop, right? The 7-drop Linlin, but then in the next turn at 9, probably just played that again, and you can't guarantee that you get a life every time off that 7-drop, but with this Linlin right here, you would be able to get a life off that 9 Dawn turn, being able to put all of those Dawn away. And let me tell you, with the pudding, you would get that Dawn right back. So all you're really losing is just the 1 card from your hand, which 1 card from my hand, I get to put a card into life. And by the way, I didn't even mention this or go into detail about it. I get to put a 6-cost or less at the top or bottom of the life. That is just strong in itself, right? Because of what I mentioned earlier with the Kaik Curries, just be able to get rid of pesky targets. This is a crazy card. Now into black, we have Kaido. Now, this is what I would consider to be one of the lower tier 1 cards, but I think that this card is just that good. I think that this card has a lot of value in the game, whether it's not right now, but probably later. This is an SR that, in my opinion, you can get for insanely cheap right now, but could bounce right up as soon as somebody cracks a deck with this. 9 cost, 9,000 power, has an activate main once per turn. You may discard 1 card from your hand. If this character was played this turn, place up to 1 of your opponent's 7 cost or lower characters in the trash. Not KOing them, right? It's just putting them in the trash. So this goes through Sabo's protection effect. Then your opponent discards 1 card from your hand. So trading 1 card from the hand on the discard, but also getting rid of a 7 cost or lower, a big body, especially as a black deck where you can minus the cost of characters. This Kaido is great. I don't care what anybody else has to say. I think that this will definitely rock the meta at some point or another, whether that's in the OP08 King, right? Whether that's in something else. I think this has a stay. I love this card. Definitely want to make sure you read the FAQ though, because I think it's weird because it has an activate main once per turn, which says that you can basically do it whenever you want. But if you're trying to do this on the turn after it was played, if you trash a card, just nothing else happens. You literally just trash a card from your hand. It's important to know the game's rules when you're doing these. Now we'll go into what a lot of people consider is the best card in OP08. It's Jack from the Animal Kingdom Pirates. 7 cost, 8,000 power. You may have seen Jack in the video that we posted yesterday of the Rob Lucci deck in that 3v3. At all times, once this hits the field, this Jack is an 11 cost, gives the character +4 cost, and then with an activate main effect, resting the card. If you do, draw 1 card and trash 1 card from your hand, then KO up to 1 of your opponent's 3 cost or lower characters. So has a really good ability to just get rid of pesky blockers, pesky characters on the field, right? Being 5s and stuff like that. There are a lot of minusing effects in black that could get you to that 3 or lower, especially when just 1 Dawn is a single Ice Age that's -5. So your 8-drop or lower characters are always susceptible to being KO'd by a Jack. This is the gecko of the set, right? This is the most expensive SR probably of the set, and for good reason. It's a great card, is placed in pretty much all black decks, even ones that don't have any Animal Kingdom Pirates searching, and you definitely want to get this. We're also going to talk about who's who now. Who's who with an Animal Kingdom Pirates and former CP9 is a great inclusion in Rob Lucci, so has a ton of value in multiple different archetypes in this game. It's a 2k counter, which is a big reason why a ton of people play this 5-cost 5,000 power character, but if you do get it off of the life on the trigger, you can KO a 3-cost or less character, which is crazy for this card. And then on play, if you trash a card from your hand, you can also KO up to one of your opponent's 3-cost or lower characters. So has the potential to really get you out of a bind, maybe pop a couple different characters at certain times, or at the end of the day, it's a 2k counter, and a lot of times a searchable 2k counter. Remember that former CP9 still runs in CP engines and is a CP card because it has CP in its name. Now we've got Jewelry Bonnie introducing the yellow cards of tier 1. Now this Jewelry Bonnie, I was a little like, I'm not sure whether to put it at 4 of or maybe just like 2. This Jewelry Bonnie is very good, don't get me wrong, and does see a good amount of play in the OP08 meta with that Dawn ×1 your turn once per turn. When your opponent loses a life, draw 2 cards and discard 1 card from your hand. So basically on the attack, right, when you're attacking, if at any point they take life, you get to do that draw to discard 1 card effect to net you 1 card. And even on that trigger as well, draw 2 cards, discard 1 from your hand, you get a net 1 no matter what, which has a ton of value in a lot of players' eyes. We see this in a variety of different decks, right? In Vegapunk, we've seen this in like a Nell. Some decent decks in the format that are looking to shake up a lot of noise, but I will say it's not the best yellow card of this set. That title belongs to Nami, another 5-cost character, this one being 5,000 power. On play, you may trash 1 card with the trigger from your hand. It KOs up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. Then if you have 3 or less cards in hand, draw 1 card. With that trigger of activating the cards on play effect, this is a great card to find not only in life, but also searching and finding through the game, right? As an Egghead Straw Hat Crew type character, this can have a lot of value and a lot of flexibility and a ton of different decks, especially when you have that low hand size, right? Maybe some people trying to starve you in some game plans. If you're being starved, you still have a little bit of draw power in this Nami. So excellent stuff in my opinion. And also, this is probably one of the only cards that I actually prefer its regular art rather than its alternate art. Not to say that the alternate art's bad, but this card's so cute. And the final card of tier 1, Silver's Raleigh, the former Roger Pirates, the manga of this set. 8-cost, 8,000 power character on play. This is a long one. Choose up to 2 of your opponent's characters until the end of your opponent's next turn. Give 1 character minus 3,000 and the other minus 2,000. And then after that, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a power of 3,000 or lower. So not only has the potential to minus a ton of characters for battle, right, of your other characters, but also being able to have some removal on top of that is so good in this card. I will tell you that you may not see this card right now in the OP08 meta, but trust me, bro, it is all over OP09 in Japan. People are playing Shanks left and right. My entire timeline is like the only deck that people are playing in Japan is Shanks, and Shanks runs this card. So this might be the cheapest time that Silver Raleigh is in here, so make sure to get this guy before OP09 releases because it's probably going to cost more in OP09. You especially want to buy this probably after the wave comes in and people, you know, buy the boxes. You get around the initial release hype. Once that price settles down, go ahead, grab 4 of these because these are a really good card. Now we're going to talk about the tier 2s in this, and we're going to start off with our favorite medical doctor reindeer, Tony Choppa. Now this 3 cost 5,000 power character does not have counter on it, but it allows you to do a lot of good stuff, especially your turn on play when attacking. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and among them play up to 1 animal type character with the power of 4,000 or less as rested, then place the rest of the cards at the bottom of the deck in any order. This card is a pretty good card for red, especially with your low to the ground type decks like Zoro, right? Zoro loving to flood the board with bodies and doing attacking. This is, in a lot of people's eyes, what we saw from the OP08 meta, the best way to build with Zoro. And so not only that, you can use the new Tony Chopper character, right, red green, alongside this. This little guy is pretty doggone good, especially if your deck is mainly some of these animal type characters. So we'll talk about a couple other of the animal type characters here in a second. And I see this guy a lot in different lists that run this kind of Tony Chopper engine. Hiking Bear is one of them. This Hiking Bear is a 2K character, which is very nice. A lot of people think does also have a Dawn ×1 activate main. Give up to one of your animal type characters other than this character plus 1,000 power for this turn. So effectively putting it to a 4, and then if you use the like Tony Chopper leader effect, getting it to 5, a very nice investment. Or maybe the Zoro, right? Zoro using leader effect, giving this to 5,000 on 1 Dawn, and then giving a plus 1,000 boost again elsewhere can lead to a lot of different damage, especially because like the Tony Chopper that we talked about just a moment ago was 5,000 base power already, so it can just do so much. And especially right when you play it from the chopper, right, and you play this guy rested, you can go ahead and attach a Dawn to it and get that effect, right? There's no restriction on, you know, can't be on your first turn or anything like that. I really like the Hiking Bear. I really like the kind of Animal Kingdom, or I'm sorry, not Animal Kingdom, Animal Engine of Zoro, and especially with red purple log on, who knows, we might actually see Zoro become much better in the meta. Also give a quick shout out to Wapple. So Wapple, 6,000 power character, Dawn ×1 when attacking. Give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for the turn. Then give this character plus 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So literally the entire time that this is on the field, when it gets to swing, it is an 8,000 power character with 6 Dawn, and you can minus something for 2,000 in exchange, especially when you talk about something like Vivi, right? Vivi being able to give different characters rush. That's kind of crazy that you can get an 8,000 power rush character that also maybe puts some blockers under that number, or maybe the character it's battling a little bit lower as well, to get some counter cards out of the hand, or maybe KO that character. I mean, I really like Wapple. I think this card's crazy, and it was also really good in pre-release. You've got Dr. Crua here, the crazy doctor and senpai of Tony Chopper. It is a 1-drop searcher, but you look at the top 4 cards of the deck, but you get to choose either a chopper or a card with Drum Kingdom, something that, you know, Wapple we just talked about is an excellent example of that, and add it to your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of any order. Definitely if you're going to be running a engine that revolves around the Drum Kingdom or Tony Chopper, honestly, I've seen some red decks or partially red decks just play a ton of some of the Tony Choppers that we've seen, whether that's the film ones, whether that's the one where he's like the reindeer bucking, I think it's like OP04. Like there's a lot of different chopper cards, even some like an OP01. You're definitely going to want to play this character because this is a really nice searcher to find like your SR or anything like that. Now the other doctor that Tony Chopper admired, Dr. Look, I'm this far in the anime, I should know how to say this character's name. Anyways, it's a 2K counter Drum Kingdom Kingdom cards. So just like you want to play the Dr. Crua in the Drum Kingdom Tony Chopper engines, you want to play this one too, because that's a searchable 2K for you. And then if you rest the character, if your leader is Tony Chopper, you give all your Tony Choppers plus 2000 power for the rest of the turn. Let me explain. In the green-red Tony Chopper deck that comes out in OP08, you play just a ton of Tony Choppers, right? Like your board is literally just Tony Choppers. You give a little addition to some of them. You give even more addition through this card. It's like a Makino, but like for everybody. This card's wild. We've also got Inuarashi, or Dogstorm, I think it's called in the translations on OnePieceTopDecks.com. This one is just played in Kara decks, which is why it's tier 2, because it's leader restricted, right? If your leader has the Minx type, up to 2 of your opponent's rested 5-cost or lower characters cannot be set active during their next refresh phase. If you're playing Kara, you definitely include this card, right? As a Minx character, probably searchable through your card that we'll talk about here soon, the 1-drop Searcher. We've also got Pedro here. Pedro was actually really good on pre-release for me too. 4-drop, 5000 power blocker, but after it gets KO'd, you choose one resting an opponent's done, or KOing an opponent's rested character with a cost of 6 or less. This is definitely a strategic card that you can play in Kara, right? They swing with one character, you opt not to block. They swing with another character, you can opt to block, let it get KO'd, and then choose that first character that swung to be KO'd. Or what you can do is on the first swing, take the block and KO that character as well, because that character is technically rested when it starts its attack to initiate the attack. This Pedro is really good. It's not leader locked, but you really only see it in stuff like Carrots, so that's kind of why it's put in the tier 2. I feel like I don't see this in a lot of Bonnie. Oops, that's Tristan, not Wanda. Where's Wanda? There's Wanda. Now, Wanda is that 1-drop searcher that I talked about. This one being, though, looking at the top 5 cards, because you're only looking for Minx type cards, except for Wanda. You're not looking for Minx and Tony Chopper, for example. 1-drop searchers, again, if you're playing Carrot, you definitely need this card. And if you're playing any sort of Minx leader in the future, because I don't think there's actually any more Minx characters or Minx leaders. I could be wrong about that. This card is definitely an inclusion for your green deck. Now this one, we won't give our friends up to the enemy. So you may rest 2 of your characters with only 1 Dawn. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, all your characters cannot be KO'd by your opponent's effects. So, especially in something like against black decks, right? Black decks, really nice at just popping characters left and right. If you've got some like 1-drop searchers, right? We talk about Perona and how it uses You Can Be My Samurai, right? To rest the Otamas and the Momonosuke's. You can now use that for the Minx on your Wanda or something like that. Rest that character and then prevent all your other bodies from being KO'd by effects, which is so good. I mean, we see how good Blocker Sabo is, and it's definitely not Blocker Sabo, but it's definitely a card that you might want to hold on to 4 of those. Now going into blue, we have Kingo, this Whitebeard Pirate card, a 2K counter in the Whitebeard Pirates engine, which is mainly what it's used for, right? In the Marco engine, it's a searchable 2K off of like Izo, stuff like that. You may reveal 2 cards with Whitebeard Pirates included in the types from your hand. This character gains 2000 power until the end of turn. So if you do play this down for whatever reason, if you're playing mainly a Whitebeard Pirates engine, you can get 2 cards from your hand easy. You don't have to trash them, right? You have to reveal them. This is something that we don't really see in the One Piece trading card game, just revealing your hand specific types of cards. but this is a really cool new way to be able to have a 4-drop 6,000 power character on the field ready to swing. We've also got Thatch here, which I've seen in a couple different decks. If this character were to be KO'd or removed from play by your opponent's effect, you may place this character into the trash instead and then draw one card. This may not make a ton of sense to you, right? Because you're like, wait, it's always going in the trash. But this is effectively putting it in the trash, but avoiding the term KO. If at any point in the game there's a card on the field that says, if you KO a character, do X and Y, right? This would get around that, just saying place it into the trash instead, so then your opponent doesn't get that extra KO benefit effect. And also you get to draw one card. It's pretty good. It's something that I see a lot in stuff like Marco, and definitely one that you want to have your eye on, especially as an uncommon right here, because this could make its way into a couple different other decks because it doesn't have any like leader restrictions or anything. It's just like if it's getting KO'd or if it's leaving the field at all. Because remember, removing the field of play also includes like bottom decking, right, off of something like Gravity Blade or the Jojo that we talked about earlier. That's a way to draw one. We've also got this ace right here with that on play ability. Reveal the top card of your deck. You may put into play up to one character with the type of Whitebeard Pirates and a cost of 4 or less, and then after that return the remaining cards to the top or bottom of the deck. Basically just saying if it's not a 4-drop or less Whitebeard Pirate card, decide whether you want to put it on the top or bottom. This has value in some decks, being especially the Whitebeard Pirates decks, right? Being able to cheat out bodies, play different characters, right? We know how strong that is in some decks like Doflamingo, right? With that flip. This is another great option here for you. I really like this card. I think it can do some potential to be annoying to a lot of people, especially when it's a 5-cost 6,000 power character, right? That 6 is so good. Now, we talked about Baby King earlier. Now we're going to talk about Big King. I think that this is part of the tier 2, right? Dawn -1. If your opponent has 5 or more Dawn cards on their field, this character gains Rush until the end of the turn. This is a great card in my opinion. It is so nice, right? Because a lot of times when you play this character down, your opponent's at 5 or more, even if you do some like ramping, right, and you get ahead of them, a lot of times 5 or more is something that is done when this character hits the field, so you're always going to get that rush. I don't know where I would rank this in comparison to like the starter deck King, right? Or maybe I think it's OP01, it might be OP02. 7-drop King, I don't know where to compare these 7-drop Kings, but this one definitely has a lot of value as an 8,000 power rush character. Could be really good to battle some of the pesky bodies that you see on the other side. Now, Hakai Ocean Sovereignty, Dawn -2. If your leader's type has Animal Kingdom Pirates or Big Mom Pirates in it, KO up to 2 of your opponent's cost 6 or lower characters. This card, in my opinion, is also a really good card. You could play this at 4, but truthfully, I've seen a lot of people only play this at 2, so it's your choice. It is just a regular rare, and an event card, so you're probably going to be able to get this for pretty cheap, so might as well just get 4. But whether you're playing the Charlotte Pudding, whether or not you're playing the King or the Kaidos, right, 6 cost or lower characters is so good. We've seen the value of Gravity Blade in the blue decks, and this just KOs things. This just gets them out of there, right? It's a super costly event card, just like Gravity Blade, and no trigger on it, which is why I wouldn't put it in the tier 1 category, but still a great one that you're definitely going to want to snag. Another rare to definitely get is Queen. So Queen, with that on play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose an Animal Kingdom Pirates except for Queen, add it to your hand, then put the remaining in the bottom of the deck in any order. Now, I've put some other 1-drop searchers maybe a little bit higher than this, and we talk about some of the great Animal Kingdom Pirates. Like, you know, I was talking about how King is coming in as a purple-black leader, but I think with Queen only being able to be played with that King, correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments below, but I think the only card that you can play this in terms of that would make sense is that King, right? Or if you're playing just any black deck that had this. I played this in the pre-release to find my 1/9-drop Kaido. It's that good. Searchers are just that good. Just get all the searcher cards. Sasaki, in my opinion, has a little bit more value than Queen. I feel like I've seen this more often than the Queen. A 2K counter character that is searchable through Animal Kingdom Pirates, but it does have an activate main. You may rest one of your Dawn and this character, and you give an opponent -2 cost for the turn. So we've seen how something like Suru is so good. This might be another option, especially if you're running the Animal Kingdom Pirates engine, right, to be able to get those minusing effects on your opponent's characters. This does technically, though, require 2 Dawn when you play it on the same turn, which has less value at that point than Suru, but still a card worth mentioning. This Kalgara is a nice card in my opinion. It may not seem like much as a 6 cost 8,000 power Sky Island Shandoran Warriors character, but it does a lot of damage with the combo that we're going to be talking about here in a second. Kalgara, one of the new hot decks coming out of OP08, one that a lot of people are excited about, a different way to play yellow in my opinion, and a really cool way as well. That Kalgara runs in really good effect alongside the Mont Black Norland in this set. 5 cost 6,000 power character. It has an on play if your leader has Shandoran Warriors type, which Kalgara, and you have a Kalgara character in play, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. So this card runs hand in hand with the vanilla Kalgara that we just talked about for tier 2 in my opinion. I think you definitely run this if you're playing a Kalgara deck, and who knows with the ban of Red Purple Law if we'll see Kalgara kind of take stage for the yellow decks and do a lot more damage. I could be undervaluing this combo right here because man, just gaining life, especially when you talk about like this 5 or 6 Dawn turn, can be so good in the early game. Another card in this set, along with the Kalgara leader and archetype, is Wiper. This 4 cost Wiper on play. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 upper yard and add it to your hand, then put the remaining cards at the bottom of the deck in any order and play the upper yard from your hand. So just like with Holly, if you choose to not grab anything but you have an upper yard in your hand, you could still put the upper yard on the field just like you could with the Holly. Also a searchable 2K counter in the Shandora Warrior deck is just a really nice addition. This deck having like a ton of search options, I feel like, for these Sky Island upper yard Shandora Warrior stuff going on. Sometimes really specific, like upper yard. We've got S Snake right here, the SR. I've seen this. This was played a little bit early in OP08, but then kind of fell off the map a little bit, which is why I put it in tier 2. But with that 5 cost 6,000 power 1K counter, has a trigger to activate its on play effect, and its on play effect is good in my opinion. Up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less other than Monkey D. Luffy cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. Basically, it's literally another beige in life, but it kind of checked a little bit compared to beige, and it's just 6 costs or less characters, not named Monkey D. Luffy. It's an interesting card, one that has, in my opinion, a pretty decent on-play effect in its own right, but I think a lot of people kind of play this for the trigger a lot of times. But again, just such a cool card, especially if you're running like maybe the Vegapunk engine. Now, the Earth Won't Lose is a event card that you play in the Kalgara deck, a 1-cost counter card. If your leader has Shandora Warriors type, your leader up to one of your characters 3,000 power for this battle, then play up to 1 upper yard from your hand. Is a pretty good card, right? Getting 3,000 power and being able to play the upper yard stage is so nice. And then with that trigger of draw 2, trash 1, What the heck? This is like a Nami card. Just another great trigger for this archetype in general. Is really good and gives it a little bit of extra boost at times in this, especially with that excellent trigger. Now the final card of tier 2, it's Kaido and Linlin. This 10 costs 12,000 power character, another card that I much prefer the regular art over the alternate art. When attacking, -10 done, literally everything. KO all the other characters, just all of them. Just KO them all. Wipe out the whole field just like that other Kaido. Then put up to 1 card from the top of your deck on your life pile and trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life pile. So if you get some aggressive ramping going on, Onigashima Island, like this card's crazy. I don't think I've seen any more than 2 in a deck though, because there's a lot of good purple secret rares in my opinion. But like, dude, it's a 4 Emperors card, it's an Animal Kingdom Pirates card, and it's a Big Mom Pirate card. Like, oh my gosh, this secret rare, I would definitely grab 4 of these secret rares, even if you like, it's not good right now. If it's super cheap, we see this with secret rares all the time. They always spike up in price as soon as they become playable because they're secret rares. Just get 4 of them, or just 2. I really think you can get away with only having 2. That's like my official number according to my buy list. All right, this video is way too long, and this card right here might get me in trouble, so I won't spend too much time on it. I never shoot you. Give up to one of your leaders or characters power 4,000 for the battle, then give up to one of your characters opponent's characters -1,000 for the turn, and then with the trigger giving a character or leader 1,000 power is just a nice 2 Dawn counter card, right? Giving a bunch of power to your characters and stuff like that for the battle can get you out of it, and then even do some minusing. So that minusing might even play a factor when you're talking about the battle. Definitely though, go get 4 of these. For sure, get 4 of them. Now 10 cost Newgate. This card is actually wild. I can't believe this card exists, but for 10 cost, 12,000 power on play. If your leader's type includes Whitebeard Pirates and you have 2 or less life, which could be the case a lot of times when you're playing this on your 10 Dawn turn, until the end of your opponent's next turn, all of your opponent's characters cannot attack unless they first discard 2 cards from their hand. Especially if you use sort of a starving tactic, right? This Edward Newgate can do so much damage. Literally all the characters. It's all the characters. All of your opponent's characters can attack unless they first discard 2 cards from their hand. You thought the back-to-back-to-back 9-drop red Newgates were bad? Just wait until you get back-to-back-to-back 10-drop Newgates. This card is so wild. This card is another one of those that'll eventually be good, I swear. And then this 1-drop thank you for loving me card. If your leader's type includes Whitebeard Pirates, look at the top 3 cards, reveal a Whitebeard Pirates in its type, or Monkey Day Luffy, put it in your hand, put the rest in the bottom in any order. It's that typical 1-drop event searcher card. Is a nice card. I think definitely you want to have that as an option, especially with the trigger of drawing 1. Could just be really good, although I don't think that you play this in Nami. To be honest, definitely don't play this in Nami. Perfume Femur is a better card than this, and I hate that card, man. I hate that card. Now, the other Charlotte Kaik Curry in this list, we talked about the first one earlier. This one is not as great, but has a ton of potential. This 2 cost 3,000 power character with an activate main, trashing the character. If your leader has the Big Mom Pirates type, play up to 1 Charlotte Kaik Curry from your hand with the cost of 3 or greater, and a cost less or equal to the number of Dawn your opponent has. So especially late in the game, right? I've only really seen this in pudding decks, because I think that's the only purple Big Mom leader. Being able on like a 10 Dawn turn, right, where you're just exchanging 10 Dawn turns, being able to play for 2 Dawn this kind of curry and then evolve it into the yellow 8-drop kind of curry is so good. Oh my god. Being able to pay 2 Dawn for up to 8 cost character, that's 8,000 power, I believe, and being able to remove one of your opponent's characters or putting one of your characters in life It's just so good, man. This card is something to watch out for. I don't really see it in a ton of pudding decks. I feel like I only saw it in a couple of them, but like, I don't know, this card has the ability to cheat a lot of good stuff, especially with another Kaik Curry in this set. That's 6-drop one. So I don't know, man. I think this card, I believe in this card. And the final card we're going to talk about is S-Hawk. I believe I saw this in a couple different lists. I'm not 100% sure exactly where it was, but I remember seeing this and having to pull up the translation when I would see them on like Twitter and stuff. 4 cost, 5,000 power character. Dawn ×1. When your life total is lower than your opponent's, this character gains 2,000 power and can't be KO'd in battle by cards with a slash attribute. So the slash attribute maybe doesn't matter too much, right? It's very similar to the buggy, but especially in yellow decks, you oftentimes have less life than your opponent. And so giving this ×1 is going to make this literally an 8,000 power character, especially when it's swinging. And this is Dawn ×1 the entire time. So even on your opponent's turn, it's going to be at least a 7,000 power character if you have less life than them. And then this has a trigger as well, trashing 1 card from the hand if you have 2 or less life. Play the character. On a Vegapunk, right? You get to play this character all the time, essentially. And it's just, man, this card again as well has such good potential. It's pretty easy to remove though as a 4 cost, which I think held it back a ton. But if this is able to survive, maybe you're playing kind of a slower deck like Bonnie or something like that, being able to get so much power in such little Dawn, it has so much value. But that's it. That's my buy list for OP08. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And remember, if you want cool sleeves like this, official One Piece sleeves, I'm going to tell you soon in a video where you can actually get them for a discounted price and maybe support the channel. It is definitely a sponsorship, but I can't tell you who or what, but I do know that you'll also have a chance to be able to get something from me in this that is related to the One Piece trading card game, which is really cool, and that's another reason why I took this. But anyways, that's going to be all. No more leaks if you made it this long, because this is a long video. It's a buy list video. You get the good info. And yeah, I hope to see you soon. Let me know what decks you're playing in OP08. I'm going to still be playing Nami because Nami is cheap. I don't have to buy any new cards from it, and I can continue playing. And we'll talk about some more videos soon. I've got a couple more lined up, and I hope to see you then.